All right, let's try this again. DT2 Comics Chat coming at you with my thoughts on the return of Patrick Stewart as Picard. Well, what I want to say is I'm cautious. And the reason I'll say I'm cautious is because this thing has the potential to go either way. So I'm calling it right now. This is going to be extreme. This is not going to be a meh kind of thing. This is either going to be really, really good or really, really bad. Okay? And here's the reason or reasons why. Because if you are going to show people a character that they're used to at a certain stage of life, older, at an older stage of life, you have to have several things. You have to have an incredible story concept. Okay, it just has to be really, really tight. You have to have an incredibly well-written script. You have to have fantastic direction, and you have to have outstanding acting. Okay, so it can work, but you have to have all those things together. Now, you might say, don't you need to have that all the time? Let me explain. Let me give you an example of where showing a character older does work. Where it does work is something like old Batman with The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns was originally conceived as the last Batman story. So Frank Miller said in his notes in, The Dark Knight Returns that we were always used to seeing Batman as eternally 29, always with renewable youth, always in his prime, just out there just bashing heads of the bad guys. And Frank Miller said, what if Batman got old? What if he aged? What if he just got to his senior years and he'd been retired for a while and he decided he, was going to come back, or he was compelled to come back, but he's an older man now. So it was designed to be the last Batman story. It was about Batman being retirement age, okay? So that works. Let me give you some examples where showing a character older does not work. It doesn't work in Star Wars. Okay, nobody wanted to see old Han, old Luke, or old Leia. Okay, old Luke we might have, been more accepting of, and old Luke they might have been able to get away with if it had been, a better presentation. But I'm not getting into that right now. But as far as I'm concerned, what should have happened was, because if I was George Lucas, and I'm not George Lucas, and he can do what he wants, but if that was me, I would have shot 7, 8, and 9 right after Return of the Jedi, when we still had, Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill were there. They were still in their prime. They could still play those roles without a problem. That's what I would have done. But hindsight is 20/20. But still, if barring that, then we should have just left those characters in Return of the Jedi. That should have been the last we've seen of them, and we could have moved forward. If they brought anybody back, they could bring the droids back, they could bring Chewie back, they could bring Yoda back. Okay, but the human characters don't work older. Another character that doesn't work older is Indiana Jones. Now, I know Harrison Ford is just such an incredible actor. What he does is he puts his stamp on his characters. He puts an indelible mark on the characters that he plays, and we really don't want to see anybody as these characters but him. But they should have made Indiana Jones like a James Bond type thing, and they should have replaced Harrison Ford a long time ago. They shouldn't have done that fourth movie where he comes back and he's nuking the fridge, because we don't want to see Indiana Jones, because that's not really who Indiana Jones is. That's not really who the character is. The character is an adventurer, and we want to see the further adventures of Indiana Jones. But instead, they're trying to age the character along with the actor, and it just doesn't work because they want to keep Harrison Ford. I know they were thinking about, passing the baton or the torch with Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf, and then at the last minute he snatches his hat saying, I'm not done yet, whatever. They should have made it like James Bond and got somebody else in there, and as fans we would have kicked and screamed and gotten all mad and blah, 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 and then we would have gotten over it, especially if the next Indiana Jones really crushed the role. Because Indiana Jones as a character and as a concept does not work older. Okay? So now, depending on the idea that they have for Picard, let me just run through a few of those, a few do's and don'ts, mainly don'ts. And if my lips are orange, it's because I was eating Cheetos, all right? So just relax. number one, Picard should be an admiral by now. If he comes back and he's still a captain, I don't know how they're going to be able to square that. But I do not want to see Picard going crazy, because all of the admirals in Starfleet are crazy. They're not crazy, they're crazy. And I don't want to see Picard going crazy. I don't want to see him turning evil. I don't want to see him becoming senile or getting dementia or Ironic syndrome like he had in All Good Things. I do not want to see Picard losing it like Professor X in Logan. I do not want to see him breaking down. Okay, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Picard that way. That's not necessary. It's not necessary to bring a character back to deconstruct him like that. No. Also, we want to see Picard back in action, but he has to have a reasonable reason to get back in action, because if he is an admiral, and he should be, do we really want to see him sit behind a desk and give orders while other people are out there doing it? I don't think so. We want to see Picard in action, but he's got to have a reason, and it's got to be a really good reason, hence what I said before about the proper story concept. And then it's going to beg the question of guest stars. Because if they bring Picard back, there's no way we're not going to want to see everybody. That was the thing about The Next Generation. If you loved them, you loved all of them. It was the synergy of those characters that made them great. So that means we're going to want to see Data, even though I know Data died in Nemesis and they were replacing with B4, whatever. We're going to want to see Data or Brent Spiner some kind of way. Worf, Riker, Troy, O'Brien, LaForge, Guinan, if they bring yet another version of Tasha Yar back, whatever. We're going to want to see the whole game, because that's what happens if you bring Picard back. No way we want him out there in isolation and we don't hear anything about the other characters. No. And more than anything else, who are we going to want to see? We're going to want to see Dr. Beverly Crusher. And we want to see Gates McFadden as Beverly Crusher. Not anybody else. They already tried to replace her with another doctor, Dr. Pulaski. And we know how that worked out. And no, we want to see Gates McFadden as Dr. Crusher. And we want to see them work their relationship out. Okay, we know that in All Good Things they did get married and they broke up. And it seemed like they broke up because neither one of them could not give orders, which is understandable. But this time we'd like to see them work it out. We would at least like to see the happy years when they admit that they're in love and they've been in love for a long time and they get together. Or it would be nice to see if Picard looked Commander Darren up. If he went and found Commander Darren and they rekindled a romance and they tried to make it work again. We want to know, did Picard really make a decision to just end his days by himself and that would just be the end of it? Okay? We definitely want to see that. Now, let me give you the best option for this thing, okay? Now, there's a lot of Picard stories I have, and I'm not going to tell you all of them because I might write them one day. And I hope to write a Star Trek novel one day. So, Paramount, if you're listening, call a brother, because I definitely have some scripts. But here's the best idea. They need to answer the Q question. What is the Q question? The Q question is, they bookended The Next Generation with Q and Picard's relationship with Q, and they kind of started with the encounter at Farpoint scenario, and in All Good Things, they had Q come back again and tell Picard that the trial of humanity never ended. Now, I know they did different things in the movies with Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. And nobody likes Nemesis. The actors don't like Nemesis. The director didn't like Nemesis. We, the fans, didn't like Nemesis. Blah, blah, blah. But Q made it clear that there was another level for Picard's life, that there's more going on with him than even he knows. And Q was leaning over, about to whisper in his ear what the deal was. And then he stops at the last minute and says, "You'll find out." And then he just goes away and says, "See you soon," if I remember correctly. See, we need to see what that was. We need to see what Q was talking about. My theory is that Picard is a Q. I think that Captain Picard is a Q, a member of the Q continuum, and either he was stripped of his powers because he did something reckless and given you know, maybe a false set of memories, or maybe he really did live that human life, but at some point he was a Q and he doesn't remember. But Q, the Q we know, the John Delancey Q, knows that, and that's why he's always taken such an interest in Picard, because he's been the one coaxing him along the way, and eventually he's going to drop the bombshell that Picard actually is a Q. That's my theory, and they need to deal with that, and I think that would be the best story to tell. Now, we don't want to see Picard become a Q until the end of the series, maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes, because once you become omnipotent and you can wish anything into existence, then, you know, where's your story, where's your conflict, unless they make you become human. But just like the Olivia Dabo character, I forget her name, when she found out she was Q, she had to struggle not to use her power. She had to struggle, and I would like to see Picard do that. Once because Picard's an explorer, he's an archaeologist, he wants to get out there and discover that great big wide universe, the galaxies. And what if he had the power to do so under his own power? No starships, no need for a crew, but he can go anywhere and learn anything. What would he do with that? See what I mean? That would be really, really interesting, but I would want to see it play out over an arc, over the arc of the series. So anyway, those are my thoughts. You know, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell, boom, so you can know when new videos drop. Thanks.